Hello students, today we are going to discuss about next topic of this chapter, and that is flower. So first of all, let me define a flower and what is an inflorescence. So first of all, let me define flower. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Okay, so here what happened, apical meristem will convert into floral meristem, and this floral meristem is responsible for the flower development. Okay, an internode here do not elongate and the axis get condensed. Axis will get condensed. The apex produce various floral appendages. Okay, and laterally as a successive nodes instead of leaves. And instead of leaves, they will produce floral appendages. Okay, here you can see instead of leaves, they will produce floral appendages. Here you can see floral meristem, here also floral meristem like this. Okay, and when a shoot tip, suppose this is a shoot, or a stem tip is converted into or transformed into flower, it will always solitary, that means single. Okay, here also this is a photograph showing you solitary flower. Here in this photograph also show you a solitary flower, and this also solitary flower is there. When this happen, when a shoot apex or a shoot tip transform into a flower, at that time such a condition will be arise. Okay, and it will be solitary. Next definition is about the inflorescence. Okay, so let me discuss what is the inflorescence and what is the definition of inflorescence. Arrangement of a cluster of flowers. Here you can see this is a group or a cluster of flowers which is arranged on a axis, and that is called floral axis. Okay, so this arrangement of a cluster of a flower or a group of a flower on a floral axis is called inflorescence. Okay, so what is the definition for inflorescence? It is arrangement of a cluster of flowers on the floral axis. Okay, and based on whether the apex get converted into flower, this is the tip. Okay, and that is called apical bud. If it is converted into flower or continue to grow. Okay, there is two possibilities. It may be converted into flower or it may be continue grow. Okay, and based on that, this inflorescence may be of two types, racemose and cymose. Okay, so let me discuss what is a racemose and what is a cymose type of inflorescence. In this, the main axis continue to grow. Okay, in racemose, what happened? This main axis, suppose this is the main axis. Okay, on a floral axis on which you can see flowers are arranged. Okay, so here what happened, on the tip, this axis, main axis continue to grow, not stop ever. Okay, flower are born laterally in acropetal succession. What is acropetal succession? That means here lower side flower will be open first. Okay, this one, then this one, and then this one, and this one will be last. Okay, so by this way, this older one, this is newer, and newest, like this arrangement will be occur, and such an arrangement is called acropetal. Okay, so let me repeat, flowers are born laterally. Here you can see laterally flower is there, and it will arrange like this, and this is called acropetal fashion or a succession. Okay, this is in the case of a racemose where main axis continue grow. Okay, in cymose what happened? Here suppose this is a tip, it will converted into flower. Here this one apical tip is there, apical bud is there, it will convert into flower, and hence what happen, these will growth will be stunted. Okay, or we can say inhibited. This growth will this branch will no growth. Okay, will show no growth now, and this, that's why we can say limited growth is there. Okay, so here what happened, this main axis terminate in a flower. Here you can see this is a main axis which will terminate into flower. It will arise the flower, and hence what happen, a limited growth means it will stop the growing. Okay, it will stop the growth, and limited growth is occur, and such a flower are born in a basipetal order. Okay, such a flower will show you. Here you can see basipetal means at the base side new flower. Here what happened, as the tip side new flower was there, and at the base side older flower was there. But here what happened in case of cymose, there is a newer flower at the base, and on the tip there is a older. So you can see this diagram. Okay, here newer one is at the base, and here you can see on the tip it is the older one, like that. Such a thing is called basipetal arrangement, and this one is the acropetal arrangement. Okay, now let me discuss more about flower. What is a flower? It is the reproductive unit. Okay, flower is nothing but it is a reproductive unit in the angiosperms. Okay, it means for the sexual reproductions. Okay, so here whenever sexual reproduction is there, at that time plant will produce flower. Okay, especially in case of angiosperms. A flower has a stalk, and that stalk is called pedicel also. Okay, so flower will have stalk, this one, this is the stalk, this one, is called pedicel also. Its swollen end is called thalamus. This portion here, the seat-like portion. Okay, this is the swollen end, and this is called thalamus or receptacle. This one is a receptacle or a thalamus. Then this greenish color, and reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel. Okay, and this reduced leaf on the base of a pedicel, and that is called bract. This one, this greenish one. Okay, this is called a bract. Flowers with a bract are called bracteates. Okay, so flowers, if these bracts are present, then it's called bracteates, or those without bract is where it is called abractate. So by this way, you can convert, or the two type of flowers will be there, with the bract or without bract. And if it is having a bract, then it is called bracteate, and if it not having a bract, then it is called abractate. Okay, so let me discuss more. A typical flower has a 4 kind of whorls. Okay, let me discuss that, which 4 type of whorls will be present. Arrange on the thalamus. This is the thalamus region on which all these typical flower structure will be arranged. Okay, so starting from calyx, corolla, this is outermost, then inner is the corolla, then inner is the androecium, and innermost is the gynoecium. So out of these 4 cycles, so 4 whorls, these 2 are playing very important role during sexual reproduction. Okay, and this is called accessory organs. This is helping organs, and that's why it is called accessory organ. It is not main organs or a reproductive organs. Okay, but here this androecium and gynoecium. Androecium will produce pollen grain, gynoecium will produce egg cells, and that's why this is a main organs of a reproductive organs. Okay, reproductive cycles, and that's why it is called reproductive organs. So by this way we can say any flower will have 4 kind of whorls. Okay, and it will arrange on the thalamus. This is the thalamus. Okay, on which you can see calyx and corolla. This greenish color, this greenish color is a calyx, and it is made up of sepals. Each will call sepals. Okay, then these colorful, very colorful, this you can see the structure, and there is identity of any flower, and there is a petal, and all petal together is called corolla. These calyx and corolla, both are accessory organ and help during the sexual reproduction. Okay, next is the androecium. This one, these structures you can see. Okay, this is the androecium. It is comprised of stamens. These all are considered as a stamen, which is made up of filament and anther. You know very well, it is made up of filament and anther. Okay, and next is the gynoecium. Okay, the middle one, this innermost portion is called gynoecium, and that is also called carpel. Okay, and this carpel is made up of 3 portions. Stigma, this is the stigma, and this is called style, this one. Okay, and this bulgy portion, okay, this is called ovary, in which egg cell or ovule will be placed. Okay, so by this we can say any typical flower will have 4 kind of whorls arranged on a thalamus. Okay, that include calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. Calyx and corolla both are accessory organ. Androecium, gynoecium both are reproductive organs. Okay, now in some flower like lily. Okay, in some flower like a lily, a calyx and corolla both are not different. Here you can see calyx and corolla both are not different, and such a flower in which corolla and calyx both are not different. Okay, example is a lily. Okay, and if it is not different, then it is considered as a perianth. So this flower do not have calyx or corolla differentiated. Here you can see this is the calyx and this is the corolla. You can easily identify. Calyx will be mostly greenish in color, and corolla will be have different colors. Okay, but here what happened? Here you can see this is a calyx or corolla. You cannot easily identify. Okay, and such a flower is called perianth. When a flower has both androecium and the gynoecium, male related sex organ and female related sex organ. This is androecium is a male related sex organ. Gynoecium is a female related sex organ. If both the organs are present, then flower is considered as a bisexual flower. Okay, you should remember this type of flower. What is a bisexual flower? That means male and female, both type of sex organs are present in a single flower. And such a flower is called bisexual flower. A flower having either only androecium, maybe male sex organs, or maybe only gynoecium or a female sex organ. And such a condition is called unisexual flower. So flower may be of 2 kinds, bisexual and unisexual. Whether they possess the androecium and gynoecium both, then it is considered bisexual. Okay, and if they are not having on both, then only androecium is present or only gynoecium is present, then it is called unisexual. Next here you can see types of a flower, and this is on the basis of their symmetry. Okay, so based on a symmetry, flower are of three types. We can divide flowers into three types on the basis of their symmetry. And symmetry you know very well. If you cut this one, this flower, suppose you are cutting, okay, like in the case of a pizza, okay, like you are cutting this flower from any axis and it will give you equal parts or equal portions, then it is called radial symmetry. Okay, and another name for the radial symmetry, actinomorphism. So this type of flower is considered as actinomorphic. Okay, second one is a zygomorphic. What is the zygomorphic? If you cut down this flower or draw the imaginary line on this one, okay, from any one here axis, okay, if you draw line in one axis, then only you will get two equal parts, and if you get two equal parts, then it is called bilateral symmetry. And for bilateral symmetry, another name is a zygomorphic. Okay, so such a flower is called zygomorphic. And next one is asymmetrical. That means from any axis you cannot get two equal portions, and such a flower is also called irregular flowers. Okay, so this is the case of actinomorphic flower, zygomorphic flower, and this is asymmetric flower. So by this we can say on the basis of symmetry, we can divide flowers into three types: actinomorphic, zygomorphic, and asymmetric. Next here, let me discuss more about actinomorphic flower, that is a radial symmetry flower. So here, flower can be divided into two equal radial halves, which already we have discussed, in any radial plane. From any radial plane, if you cut down or divide it, okay, then you will get equal plane, okay, passing through the center. Okay, so it will give you two equal radial halves. Okay, and such a flower is called actinomorphic or radial symmetry. Here, a major task for you is to remember examples. Okay, so in examination, this is very important to learn about these examples. Okay, you must be remember these examples. Which type of flowers will show you actinomorphic? Then you must be answer mustard. This is a mustard flower. You can see in the photograph. Datura. This one is a datura, and this is a chili. These all three are the example of actinomorphic flower, and that is called radial symmetry. Next is a zygomorphic, that is also called bilateral symmetry. Here a flower can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane. Okay, as I told you, in one particular plane if you cut down, then you will get two equal halves. Okay, and such an example include pea. This one is a pea. Okay, then this one is a gulmohar, and this is the cassia. These three are the example, okay, in which you can observe zygomorphic or a bilateral type of a symmetry. Next is a asymmetrical or irregular flower. This is also one kind of a flower or based on a symmetry. Here a flower cannot be divided into two similar halves from any plane. If you cut down it in any plane, you cannot get similar flower. Okay, similar portion or similar house by any vertical plane passing through the center. And such an example include canna. This is the canna indica, you can see. This is also photograph of canna, and this is also canna. Next here you can see a type of a flower on the basis of number of floral appendages. So here we can this type of a flower may be of different kind on another means too many type of a basis. Okay, so here you can say based on number of floral appendages. Number of floral appendages, flower can be of three kinds. Okay, here it is written three kinds. So it may be divided as a trimerous if all appendages are 3 in number. Okay, then tetramerous, all appendages will be in 4 in number. Pentamerous, all will be in 5 number. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 like this. Okay, so let me define what is a trimerous flower. Floral appendages are a multiple of 3. If any floral appendages are multiple of 3, then it is considered as a trimerous flower. Okay, tetramerous is what? Floral appendages are multiple of 4. Here you can see the photograph. This show you a Coria alba. Okay, so this is the four multiple of 4, and that's why it is called tetramerous flower. Then pentamerous flower means floral appendages are multiple of 5. So all will have 5 number. This 1, 2, 3 and 5. Here also 5. So such a flower is called pentamerous. So by this we can say based on number of floral appendages, flower can be of 3 kind: trimerous, tetramerous and pentamerous. Next type of flowers is based on their position of a calyx, corolla and androecium. So based on the position of a calyx, corolla, androecium in respect to of the ovary, okay, in respect to ovary on the thalamus, flower can be divided into 3 parts. Okay, 3 types. First is a hypogynous. This one is a hypogynous. This is on the basis of the position of a calyx, corolla, androecium in respect to ovary. Okay, so in respect to ovary, where these all structures are positioned, on the basis of that only this flower type is considered. So by this way, you can say on the basis of this condition, hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous, three kind of flower may be there. Let me discuss one by one. What is a hypogynous type of a flower? Here what happened? This gynoecium occupies highest position. Here you can see in the photograph. This is the ovary and it will be highest position. Rest other portions of a flower remain below the ovary. Okay, so this ovary will be upper side and rest other portion like this anther you can see. Okay, this is the, you can see corolla, calyx, the androecium. Rest other portions will be below the ovary and ovary will be uppermost. And if such a condition is there, then such a flower is called hypogynous flower. Okay, and here ovary will be superior, means upper level. Okay, it will be on the upper side. So this is the example for the hypogynous flower, include mustard, China rose, and brinjal. These all are the example for the hypogynous flower. You can see this hypogynous flower photograph. Here what happened? This ovary will be superior and rest other, this all structure, stamen, corolla, calyx all remain or attached below the ovary. Okay, and that site is considered as a hypogynous. Here you can see the photograph. Okay, this is the stem, this is ovary, calyx, petal, all will be below the ovary. Okay, and that site is called hypogynous flower. Next is a perigynous. Here what happened? Gynoecium is situated in the center. This one. Okay, gynoecium will be situated in the center. Okay, and as a result, other part of a flower. And then you can understand here other part of flower are located on the rim of a thalamus. Not the apocyte, not the below side. Here it is and the parallel side. Okay, so in the center. So almost in the same level. All structure will be on the same level. Here you can see on the same level all structure will be there. Okay, and the ovary will be half inferior. Such a ovary which is not upper side or not on lower side, then it is considered as a half inferior. And such an example include plum, rose, and peach. This example you must be remember. Which type of this perigynous type of flower will be observed in which type of plants? Plum, rose, and peach. In which you will observe half inferior ovary. Next is the epigynous type of flower. Here what happened? You can see here this ovary will be below side. Okay, and rest other portion, rest other structure will be above the ovary. Here you can see clearly in this diagram. This ovary is the below side and rest of the structure will be above side. Okay, and here what happened? Margin of the thalamus grows upward, closing and closing the ovary. Here you can see enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. Okay, and other part of a flower arise above the ovary. Other parts, here you can see other parts will be arise on the ovary. Okay, and the ovary will be inferior or below side. And such an example which show the epigynous type of flower include guava, cucumber, ray floret, and sunflower. So just you have to remember these all examples and definition what is the epigynous flowers. So now let me discuss about parts of a flower. So any flower will have four parts. Okay, first is a calyx, second is a corolla, third one is the androecium, and fourth one is a gynoecium. So if you start from the outside, outermost will be calyx and inner side will be corolla. Okay, then inner is a androecium and then innermost is a gynoecium. So if you take any flower, then you will observe these kind of structures or parts. Okay, so this is the stigma. This gynoecium is made up of three portions: stigma, style, and ovary, and there is also called carpel. Okay, and androecium is made up of two portions, that is also called stamen. Okay, and these two portions include anther. This one is the anther, a bag-like structure in which pollen grain will be formed. Okay, and this is the filament. This yellowish color is a filament, and which is attached with the thalamus. This is the receptacle or a thalamus on which all this structure will be attached. Okay, and these colorful petals is including in the corolla, and then here this greenish color is a sepal containing, and that is also called calyx. The whole structure of a sepal together is called calyx. Okay, so this is a typical flower, and the parts of a flower include calyx, corolla, androecium, and the gynoecium. Okay, and you can see all this. Okay, in this diagram, this calyx, corolla, androecium, and the gynoecium. So now let me discuss one by one. Let me discuss first about the calyx. It is the outermost wall Okay, that may be a outermost wall of a flower. It is made up of sepals. This all together is called calyx, but each individual this one is called sepals. Okay, all together is called calyx structure. Okay, and individually each part is called sepals. Generally sepals are green. Mostly these sepals will be green. You can see here this is the sepals which is green. Here also sepals green. This is also sepals green. So mostly it is green in color. It will look like a leaf, okay, and protect the flower in the bud stage. Whenever this flower is in the bud stage, at that time it will protect it out. The calyx may be gamosepalous. It may be gamosepalous or a sepals united, you can say. This one, you can see these all sepals are joined with this margin. Okay, this is joined with the margin, and such a is called gamosepalous. Okay, and next is a polysepalous, and this goes sepals free. These all are not joined with the margins, and that's why they are free. Okay, sepals free. Polysepalous means by this we can say calyx is made up of sepals, and the sepals may be of two kinds. Sepals may be united like this here, and that is called, if it is united then it's called gamosepalous. Okay, and if it is free then it is called polysepalous. So by this way two type of sepals may be arranged. Okay, gamo or a polysepalous. Next is a corolla. It is a wall inner to the calyx. Okay, inner to the calyx there is a wall of a calyx. It is the composed of petals. It all parts here. This all together is called corolla, and individually each part is called petals. So all petals together form corolla. Petals are brightly colored. Mostly you can see it is colorful. Okay, and it attract the insects for the pollination. It help to attract the insect for the pollination. Corolla may be gamopetalous. Here also you can see. Okay, this corolla you can see. This one, these all petals are free. This all. Okay, and this is called polypetalous. And suppose this is not free, it is all united. Okay, then it is called gamopetalous. This is the case. This is the datura in which you can observe this gamopetalous. Okay, and here in the case of a hibiscus, you will see polypetalous like this. So corolla also having two types, gamopetalous or a polypetalous. Here petals are united, then it is called gamopetalous, and if it is free, then it is called polypetalous. Here shape and color of a corolla vary in a plant to plant. Okay, and corolla may be tubular, it may be formed like tube, whale shape. Okay, here you can see this is a bell shape. Okay, then funnel shape or a whale shape. So all may be structures which you can found as a corolla in different kind of plants. Here now let me discuss about estivation. So first of all, let me define what is the estivation. Okay, so it is the mode of arrangement of sepals. Okay, you know very well sepals may be having a fixed arrangement on the thalamus. Okay, and this is the arrangement of sepals and petals on the floral bud. Okay, whenever a flower is in the bud condition, at that time what is the arrangement of sepals and petals, it will define the estivation. What is the meaning of estivation? It is the mode of arrangement, one kind of arrangement of sepals and petals both. So estivation can be applied to both arrangement, whether it is sepals or petals on the flower bud. Okay, and the types of estivation may be of these four kinds: velvet, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. Okay, this vexillary also called as a papilionaceae. Okay, and here this is a velvet type. Okay, it will just touch to the margins. It will just touch to the margin, and that is called velvet type. This is a twisted type. Okay, here what happened? One will be this overlap to the another margin. One will overlap this another margin like this. This is called twisted. Here imbricate and vexillary. These all four kinds of estivation you can observe in the flower. Let me discuss one by one. First of all, velvet type of estivation. So here sepals or petals in a wall just touch one another. Here just touch. Okay, this margin will be touched, not overlapping. Okay, and one another at the margin. And if it is this like you observe this kind of structures without any kind of overlapping, such a type of estivation or arrangement of sepals or petals is called velvet type. Okay, here also you can see here petals are just touching to each other at the margin, never it will be overlap. Okay, and such a without overlapping type of estivation is called this velvet type of estivation. Okay, an example include calotropis. This is a photograph of a calotropis. Okay, so in the calotropis you will observe, if you observe this flower, they just this touching this will just touch the margins. Okay, and so velvet type of estivation. Next is a twisted. Next type of estivation is a twisted. Here what happened? One margin of a appendage, here this one margin will of the appendage is overlap that of the next one. Here you can see it will overlap. This one is overlap. This is also overlap. So one will overlap another. One will overlap with another. And such a kind of estivation is called twisted. Okay, an example include China rose. This is a photograph of a China rose. Then lady's finger and cotton. Okay, so here you can see one will overlap another. This will overlap another like this. Such a arrangement is called this type of estivation is called twisted type of arrangement or estivation of a sepals or a petals. Next type is a imbricate. Next type of estivation is a imbricate. Here what happened? The margins of a sepals or a petals overlap one another. Here what happened? The margins of the sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction. Here direction is not fixed. Overlapping is there but direction is not fixed. One will overlap with the another, one will overlap with another. Not like that. Randomly it will, this overlapping is a random. Okay, particular direction will be not observed. And such a type of estivation or arrangement of a sepals or petals is called imbricate type of estivation. Okay, such an example include cassia and gulmohar. And here you can see the photograph of a cassia and the gulmohar. So here estivation type, in these estivation type you can observe margins of a sepals or petals. Okay, margin of a sepals or petals overlap but here no particular direction. And such an example is a cassia and gulmohar. Here you can see the photograph. Okay, and this type of estivation is called imbricate type of estivation. Next type of estivation is a vexillary and that is also called pepineus type of estivation. In these there are 5 petals. Here you can see in this diagram there are 5 petals. The largest one is called standard. Then that will be overlap the 2 and that is a lateral petals. Here this one is a lateral petal. Okay, and that is also called wings, which is in turn overlap the 2 smallest interior petals. Here this one 2 interior petal and this one is called keel. So in this type of estivation you will observe standard, wings and keel. Okay, this is a very unique type of structures. Okay, and these all are considered as a estivation like a vexillary. Okay, so here you can see in this diagram, this is the photograph in which you can observe standard and this is the wings and this one is the gills. So if these kind of structures are observed then it is called vexillary. Example include pea and beans. So you will observe this kind of estivation in the pea and the beans. Next here is the androecium that we discuss about third portion or third part of a flower and that is androecium and that is the male sex organs. It is composed of stamens. Okay, mainly it is composed of stamens. Each stamen represents the male reproductive organ and each stamen, here you can see the stamen and the stamen is consist of stalk and that is called filament. This one. Here you can see this stalk and next one here is anther. So any stamen is consist of 2 portion, stalk that is called filament and the anther. Okay, and here you can see in this diagram, this is the, you can see this is the stamen which having this one. Okay, this is a structure of anther and this one, this greenish color is a stalk or a filament. Okay, and here you can see one structure is also there and that is called connective which will connect anther with the filament. Okay, and this is also having a microsporangium inside which pollen grain will be formed. Okay, so this is the whole structure of a stamen which is responsible for male gamete formation in case of a plant. Okay, so this is consist of stamens. Androecium is consist of stamen and stamen is consist of stalk and the anther. Okay, and next here each anther is usually bilobe. Each anther, if you observe in from the inner side, from outside it look like this, but inner side you will see here it is having a bilobe structure and each lobe having 2 chambers like this. Here this one you can see these chambers. Okay, and this all chambers is called pollen sacs. Why it is called pollen sacs? Because it will store pollen grains inside them. Okay, pollen sacs contain pollen grains inside them, and that's why they are called pollen sacs. A sterile stamen, which is not forming any kind of pollen grain. Sterile stamen means what? It will not produce any kind of pollen grain, and such a stamen with not producing any kind of this pollen grain, and that is called staminodes. So staminode is the structure of a stamen in which pollen grain will be not formed. There is a presence of stamen, but it is not responsible for production of pollen grains. Okay, such a structure is called staminodes. Okay, so here you can see whole photograph of a flower in which this is the position which is attached with this portion. It is also called a thalamus. Okay, this you can see thalamus. This filament is attached over there, and in the tip there is an anther. Next is in the androecium, you can understand when stamens are attached to a petal. Sometimes what happen in case of androecium, all stamen attached with the petals. Okay, they are not free but attached with the petals, and such a type of stamen is called epipetalous. Okay, epipetalous means what? Here stamens are attached with the petals. Example include is a brinjal. Okay, so here you can see epipetalous type of flower in which stamens are attached with the petal. Okay, and such a flower is called epipetalous, and such an example include the brinjal. Next here is when stamens are attached to the perianth. This is the perianth. The perianth type of flower it is. So stamen here will attach to the perianth, and they will call epiphyllous. Here it is considered as epiphyllous. Example include lily. Okay, so here when a stamen are attached to perianth, they are epiphyllous. Okay, and example include lily. So next, if the stamen in a flower are free, okay, if stamen is the free, here you can see all are free. Okay, and then it is called polyandrous. Here in this you can see polyandrous in case of a lotus. All stamen are free. Okay, but some cases here in case of a China rose, you will observe synandrous type of this type of you can see androecium. Okay, so here what happens in synandrous type of means what? Here stamens are united, means attached with each other. Here you can see one group of stamens will found, and such a type of group of arrangement of a stamen is called synandrous type. Okay, so by this you can say stamens may be of two kinds, polyandrous and synandrous. Okay, polyandrous example is a lotus, and synandrous example is a China rose. Next here, synandrous type of stamen are of many kind. Synandrous type of stamen means group of stamen having so many other types also include monoadelphous. This is monoadelphous because only one group is there. Okay, so it is having a monoadelphous type of synandrous power. And here stamens are united into one bunch, one group or a one bundle. Example is a China rose. You must remember the examples. Okay, and next is a diadelphous. Here what happened? Here synandrous stamen is there but having a two groups. Okay, stamens are united into two bundles. Here only one bundle is there, but here two bundles will be observed, and such in the case of a pea. Okay, next is the polyandrous. Here what happened? Stamens are united into more than two bundles. Here more than two bundles will be observed, and here in case of citrus plants. So by this you can say synandrous stamen may be of three kind: monoadelphous, then diadelphous, then polyadelphous. One group, two group, and more than two group. Then it is considered as a monoadelphous, diadelphous, and polyadelphous. Next here, there may be a variation in the length of a filaments within a flower. For example, here a salvia, length here you can see very long. Okay, but here in this case mustard, you can see length of a this filament may be differ from plant to plant. Now next is the gynoecium, that is a female reproductive organs. Okay, so here gynoecium is composed of these three portions: stigma, style, and ovary. Okay, and gynoecium is also called pistil. It is a female reproductive part of a flower, and it is made up of one or more carpels. Okay, and here carpel is composed of three portions: stigma, style, and ovary. Here this portion is considered as a stigma. It is a receptacle part for the pollen grain. When pollen grain is landed on this portion, it will be received by the stigma. Okay, and then this portion, a narrow tube-like structure, is called style, and then in the base here, this one near to the thalamus, this is the thalamic region. Okay, and near to that, the bulgy portion is there. Okay, swollen portion is there, and that is called ovary, in which you can see ovules will be situated, and that is also called megasporangia. Okay, so this is the old part of this flower, and you can see the structure where this gynoecium is situated. Next, let me discuss one by one each portion of this carpel. So carpel, as I told you, it is made up of three portions: stigma, style and ovary. So stigma, it is usually at the tip of the style. Okay, this is the style, and on which you can see, this is the style on which you can see this bulgy portion is called stigma, and it is receptive surface for the pollen grain. Okay, and then style, an elongated tube, that is, this is the elongated tube that connect ovary to the stigma. Okay, next is the ovary. This is very important portion and main portion of this carpel. It is a large basal part on which the style lies. Okay, and each ovary bears a one or more ovules attached to flat cushion-like placenta. Okay, and it is attached with the placenta structure, which is connective portion with the ovary wall and the egg cell or ovary or ovules. Okay, and that is called placenta, a connective part which connect these tissues and which is responsible for the transportation of a nutrient from ovary to the ovules. Okay, so by this way, by using placenta only, nutrition will be derived by the ovules. Next here, polycarpellary pistil. This gynoecium may be divided into two portions or two types. So here polycarpellary pistil, which is a pistil with many carpels, and there are of two types. Okay, so they may be included as apocarpus or syncarpus. So what is the apocarpus? Here apocarpus means what? Carpels are free. Here carpels are totally free from each other. Okay, just in the case of a lotus and rose, you will observe this type of apocarpus type of this carpels. Okay, this pistil you can see here, this carpel or a pistil, here this apocarpus is there. Each will be different or individually there, freely available. Okay, freely attached, and such a type of structure is called apocarpus. Carpels are totally free. Okay, and here syncarpus, that means carpels are fused. You cannot identify here, this one you can see, you cannot identify whether this is one or more than one. Okay, so you will observe structure like this. Ovary will look like this. If you take the cross section, then ovary will look like this because it is syncarpus, because all ovaries will fuse together. Okay, and form one type, one structure. Okay, and this structure is called syncarpus. Here carpels are fused. Example is a mustard and tomato. So you must be remember these examples. What is the example of apocarpus type of carpel? So here lotus and rose, and here syncarpus, mustard and the tomato. So now let me discuss about placentation. Here, what is a placentation? It is the arrangement of ovules on the placenta within the ovary. Okay, so this you can see the photograph. These all are the types of a placentation. These may be of five kinds: marginal, axile, parietal, free central and basal. Okay, so let me discuss one by one. What is a placentation? So let me discuss about first type of a placentation, and that is a marginal type of a placentation. Here what happened, the placenta forms a ridge. Here this one, here it will form the ridge along the ventral suture. This is the ventral suture, okay, of the ovary, and the ovules are born on the ridge of forming two rows. Here you can see, okay, here a two rows will be formed, okay, and it will be born on the ridge and forming a two row. And this is the, you can say, this one is called a suture, ventral suture, on which ridges are there, two ridges are there, on which you can see two rows of these seeds will be there. Okay, and this is called one type of marginal type of a placentation, because here ovules are arranged like this on the margin. Okay, and that's why here you can see this whole structure which is presented here is called one type of a placentation, and that called marginal type of placentation. Example include pea plants. Next type of placentation is the axile type of placentation. Here the placenta is axial and ovules are attached to it on a multilocular ovary. Here ovary become multilocular, or we can say multi-chambered. Okay, and here placenta is observed on the axial side. And such an example you can observe in the China rose, tomato and lemon. Here in this diagram you can see the photograph of a tomato section, okay, in which you can observe placentation which is of axile type. Next type of placentation is a parietal type of a placentation. Here ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary. This is the wall of the ovary on which, or a peripheral part of the ovary. Ovary is a one chamber. Here you can see the diagram which is show that one chamber ovary is there, but it become two chambered, and that is just due to formation of a false septum. Okay, false septum will be formed. As a result of that, ovary become multi-chambered. Okay, here original septum is not there, but just because of the presence of this kind of this kind of arrangement of ovules, it will look like a false septum, and that's why you can see this. It will look like a chambers, but actual chamber is not there. Just because of formation of false septum, it look like a two chamber. Here you can see this diagram. Okay, and here you can take the example as a mustard and argemone. These two are the example which shows parietal type of placentation. Next placentation is a free central. Here you can see the center is not connected with the periphery, right? Because it is totally free. Here ovules are born on a central axis and septa is totally absent, and that's why it look like a free central. Freely you can see in the center this placenta will be arranged. Here also you can see in this diagram free central placentation. Okay, an example you can see this type of free central placentation in the dianthus and primrose. Okay, next type of placentation is a basal type of placentation. Here what happened, on the base of this ovary you can observe this ovule. Okay, only single ovule will be observed in the base of the this ovary. This is whole structure of ovary. In the base of this ovary you will observe one ovule. Okay, here placenta develop at the base of the ovary and a single ovule. Here a very unique thing, a single ovule will be there. It will attach to it. Okay, and here example includes sunflower and marigold. These two are the example of which shows basal type of a placentation. Next here you can see this gynoecium. Okay, this is whole portion which convert. This is whole portion of ovary. Okay, here you can see the flower. Okay, this whole portion is the ovary. After fertilization, what happened? Okay, so here inside the ovary, as I told you, is we have learned about the placentation. These ovules are arranged in the ovary, right? But here what happened? This ovary, when inside that ovule is present, okay, an ovule will be fertilized by the pollen grain. Okay, during the sexual type of a sexual reproduction, and at that time what happened? This ovule will now become seed. Okay, this ovule after fertilization, this ovule become or develop into seeds. Okay, whereas this ovary whole structure, this whole ovary structure will mature into fruit. Okay, so whatever ovary will be there will convert into seeds in future, and whatever ovary is present will mature into fruit in future. Okay, so this you can see, this is the ovary. Okay, and it will convert it into whole fruit after the fertilization event, and each ovule which is present inside that will convert into seeds. So in next lecture we will learn about ovules which is convert into seeds and ovary which is convert into fruits. So in next lecture we will learn about fruits and seeds. So this is your homework for today's lecture, and before we finish this lecture, let me summarize whole topic by using one animation video. So look at this video.
A flower is the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant that contributes to the process of reproduction. Typically, a flower has four main whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. These whorls are arranged on the swollen end of a stalk called the thalamus or the receptacle. The outermost whorl is the calyx, consisting of sepals. The next inner whorl is the corolla, consisting of petals. Both calyx and corolla are accessory whorls or non-essential whorls of a flower. While the calyx protects the flower in its bud stage, the corolla helps to attract insects and birds for the purpose of pollination. In some plants, such as the lily, both the calyx and the corolla are fused to form the perianth. The whorl inner to the corolla is the androecium, consisting of stamens, which are the male reproductive organs. The innermost whorl is the gynoecium, consisting of one or more carpels, which are the female reproductive organs. Both the androecium, gynoecium are the reproductive organs of a flower. They are also called the essential walls of a flower. Flowers can be either bisexual or unisexual. A bisexual flower has both androecium and gynoecium, while a unisexual flower has either androecium or gynoecium. Flowers can also be either asymmetrical or symmetrical based on the arrangement of floral parts around the thalamus. An asymmetrical flower cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane that passes through its center, while a symmetrical flower can be divided into similar halves. Symmetrical flowers can be subdivided into two types: actinomorphic and zygomorphic. An actinomorphic flower can be divided into similar halves in any radial plane that passes through its center, while a zygomorphic flower can be divided into two similar halves only by a single vertical plane that passes through its axis. Flowers are also classified as trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous based on the number of flowering parts like sepals, petals, and stamens. Trimerous flowers have flowering parts in sets of 3, while tetramerous flowers have them in sets of 4 and pentamerous flowers in sets of 5. Some flowers have reduced leaves at the base of the thalamus known as bracts and are commonly called bracteates. These bracts are absent in some flowers known as ebracteates. Based on the position of the gynoecium with respect to the calyx, corolla, and androecium on the thalamus, flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. When the gynoecium is at the highest position on the thalamus with respect to the calyx, corolla, and the androecium, the flower is said to be a hypogynous flower. Such flowers are said to have a superior ovary. Common examples are brinjal and mustard. When the gynoecium is at the center of the thalamus and all the other parts are on its rim, the flower is called a perigynous flower. The ovary in these flowers is said to be half inferior. Rose and peach are typical examples of perigynous flowers. However, in some flowers, the ovary is completely enclosed within the thalamus and is fused within it, while all the other parts appear above the ovary. Such flowers are called epigynous, and their ovary is said to be inferior. Sunflower and guava are epigynous flowers. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is called inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex of the floral axis is converted into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescences are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose inflorescence, the flowers appear laterally in acropetal succession, that is, from the base to the top of the main axis. Therefore, the main axis or stalk continues to grow at the tip. However, in cymose inflorescence, the flowers appear in basipetal order or grow in succession from the apex to the base of the main axis. Here, the main axis ends in a flower and further development takes place by the growth of lateral branches. Therefore, apart from being the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant, a flower contributes to the process of reproduction and helps in the perpetuation of species. A flower is the most beautiful and attractive part of a plant that contributes to the process of reproduction. Typically, a flower has 4 whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. The outermost whorl is the calyx, which consists of sepals that are green, leaf-like structures that protect the flower in its bud stage. The sepals can be either free or united. When free, the calyx is called polysepalous, and when united, the calyx is called gamosepalous. The next inner whorl is the corolla, which consists of petals that are usually thin and soft. There is a wide variety in the color and shape of the corolla. It can be in the shape of a wheel, funnel, or bell, and is sometimes tubular. The primary function of the corolla is to attract insects and birds for pollination. Like the calyx, the petals of the corolla can be either united or free. When united, the corolla is called gamopetalous, and when free, it is called polypetalous. The arrangement of the sepals and petals also characterizes a flower. The positional arrangement of the sepals and petals with respect to other members of the same whorl within a flower bud is called aestivation. Aestivation is of many types. However, the main ones are valvate, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. In valvate aestivation, the sepals or petals within a whorl touch each other at the margin with no overlapping, while in twisted aestivation, one sepal or petal overlaps that of the next one, and so on. In imbricate aestivation, the margins of the sepals or petals overlap one another, but in no particular direction. And finally, in vexillary aestivation, each sepal or petal covers the sepal or petal that is within it. Now let's learn about androecium, the whorl inner to the corolla. The androecium consists of stamens, which are the male reproductive organs of a flower. Generally, each stamen has a stalk called the filament and an anther at the tip. The anther usually has 2 lobes, each with 2 chambers, which are the pollen sacs. The pollen sacs contain pollen grains. A stamen that is sterile is called a staminode. Moreover, the filaments of a stamen can be of different lengths, as in mustard and salvia. The stamens can also be attached to each other or to other parts of the flower. For example, in the mustard flower, the stamens are epipetalous or are attached to the petals, while in the lily, the stamens are epiphyllous or are attached to the perianth. stamens can also remain free or polyandrous, as in lily, or united in varying degrees, as in China rose, the pea plant, and citrus plants. In China rose, the stamens are united into one bundle and are called monoadelphous. In the pea flower, the stamens are grouped into two bundles and are called diadelphous. And in the lemon flower, the stamens are grouped into more than two bundles and are known as polyadelphous. Now the innermost whorl is the gynoecium. It consists of one or more carpels, which are the female reproductive organs of a flower. The carpels can be either fused or free. For example, in tomato and mustard, the carpels are fused and are called syncarpous, while in rose and lotus, the carpels are free and are called apocarpous. Each carpel has three parts: stigma, style, and ovary. The stigma is the part of the carpel that receives the pollen grains. The style is the elongated tube that lies on the ovary and connects it to the stigma. An ovary is the enlarged basal part and bears one or more ovules, which are attached to a placenta that is soft and flat. Once fertilization takes place, the ovules form the seeds and the ovary develops into the fruit. The arrangement of ovules within an ovary is called placentation. There are different types of placentation: axial, parietal, basal, free or central, and marginal. In axial placentation, the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, as in lemon and tomato. In parietal placentation, the ovary is initially single-chambered. A false septum later develops and divides it into two chambers. The ovules develop on the peripheral or inner wall of the ovary. Parietal placentation is seen in plants such as cucumber and melons. When the placenta develops at the base of the ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, the placentation is called basal placentation. This is seen in marigold and sunflower. In free or central placentation, septa are absent and the ovules develop on the central axis, as seen in primrose and dianthus. Finally, in marginal placentation, along the ventral suture of the ovary, the placenta forms a ridge. The ovules are borne on this ridge in two rows, as seen in the pea plant. The calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium are the four whorls of a flower. The calyx and the corolla are the accessory whorls, while the androecium and the gynoecium are the reproductive organs.
In next lecture, we will discuss about fruits and seeds. So till then, goodbye.